Good afternoon, Africa, and welcome to Youth Voices for the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. The theme of our meeting today in this special African Town Hall meeting is what will and can Nigerian youth do if the presidential elections in Nigeria that will take place on the 25th of February is rigged or annulled. We are all witnesses to the fact that these have been recording decimals in Nigeria's political history, and Nigeria occupies a place in Africa, the extent that if it is not run well, the whole of Africa will keep having problems. Elections in Nigeria have been nothing but a charade since the flag or political independence from the invading forces of the British Empire in the armed robbery expedition christened colonialism, who has stolen and robbed and raped the landscape from and of the indigenous peoples and forcibly amalgamated them into a country without regard to the divergence of the peoples of the territory. The result of this deliberate heinous act of the British is that people without interest in civilization, scientific, cultural, economic, and social development has set astride the vast human and material resources of the geographic space called Nigeria today, and done nothing with these humongous resources of people and natural resources but to rob, rape, and vandalize. Today, a country with more than enough human and material resources to feed the rest of Africa in every social, cultural, economic, and technological sense is left desolate and unable to stand as a country and completely incapable of supporting the social, cultural, economic, and developmental objectives of the indigenous people of the land. The politicians from all the ethnic nationalities in Nigeria have been successfully beguiled by the British and their local agents into believing that they should not care about development, but should instead focus on robbing and raping the national treasury and rendering the country barren and unable to sustain life, and a system that is detrimental to the continuing existence of the peoples of the ethnic nationalities of the Nigerian space. Elections in Nigeria so far have only served to legitimize the criminality of the British Empire and their local collaborators. The politicians and their British masters have masterfully used the divide and rule and bribery and corruption to ensure that the people living in the Nigeria space never developed mentally beyond an embryo, and each of the ethnic nationalities have continued to be at war with each other to the benefit of the British and their local rogue politicians and to their own detriment. But following the NSAS protests and the hopes germinating in the minds of the young people living within the Nigerian space that the 2023 elections would see to the emergence of a president and governors and legislators capable of turning the tide of the decline that Nigeria is immersed in, have expressed their hopes that a president capable of turning this around would emerge. Is this hope realistic? Can it possibly be that there is any of the presidential candidates who could do the needful for Nigeria? Is there such, if there's such a chance, what can Nigerian youth do to make their hopes come alive? If there are obstacles to the hopes of the Nigerian youth, do the Nigerian youth have adequate response to such obstacles? Hence, what will and can Nigerian youth do if the presidential election is rigged or annulled? As the theme of the meeting today in this African Town Hall, we invite all Africa, Nigerian youth especially, to join us now and on Monday and on Tuesday at the African Town Hall online television to discuss answers to the above questions. With me in the studios to discuss these burning issues are young Nigerians and others from other parts of Africa. This broadcast is beamed live from the African Town Hall Facebook page, YouTube channel, and my personal LinkedIn page. We welcome you all to this special day when the landmark for the change we desire, for the type of Nigeria we want, for the nation we want to build, will have a chance to be in the mind and hearts of the young people who should be more concerned about all of this. We are grateful for all the young people who have volunteered their time and resources to be able to be here today. We welcome you all, and we invite you to open your minds and hearts to the discussions. As a joining instruction or ground rules, there will be no political argument that is in favor of any particular candidate. The discussions are expected to be objective so that it will heal the minds and grow the minds of the young people. There will be no campaigns for a particular candidate. If a particular candidate is to be mentioned for the qualities they bring to the electioneering, those mentioning should be objective and not be used to demean the other candidates in the presidential or other levels of elections that are happening in the country beginning from February 25, 2023. We will not have space for insults and arguments that are meaningless. We would like to spend all our energy and time in being able to serve the purpose for which we are gathered in this town hall today, which is to have the youth of Nigeria and their friends across Africa to discuss this germane and very serious and important situation that we have on our hands, which is an election that is capable of turning things around, hopefully, for the country. Thank you, and you are all very welcome. Those who are listening to us from Facebook pages, from LinkedIn or YouTube, we invite you to leave comments and ask questions which the participants to this event will be able to respond to. If the questions you have not been answered and you would like to join us in the studios to speak for yourself, please indicate that by a chat. As we see your comment on either Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, we will pull you up. We'll send you the link that will enable you to join us in the studios. We also invite those who are listening from outside the studios on all these pages on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn to not insult any candidate or anybody who is participating in this program. We want the discussions we have to be objective. One of the reasons that the young people have lost power in Nigeria and the rest of Africa is because they have followed the destructive methods of the old politicians. We want all of these to be bygone. We want a chance when strong discussions, very serious issues concerning the country can be held and talked about without anybody being insulted, but with everyone having access to opportunity to express their views and air their own opinion so that others can hear and learn. We invite all those listening to make their comments, make them robust, ask questions, join us in the studios if you want. As soon as you indicate interest, we'll give you a link that will make it possible for you. Welcome to the Youth Voices for the 2023 general elections in Nigeria on the African Town Hall online television. Thank you all very much. We already have some of those participating in the studios with me right now. And one of the things we need to do is to have them begin to make comments on the issues raised in the address. The first things we want to discuss is the state of the nation. We say that if you do not know where your problems lie, you will not know how to solve them. But if you know where your problems lie, then you will have a chance to be able to solve those problems. So let's start by requiring the young people attending this conference, those in the studio with me, and those who may be commenting from the different channels we are broadcasting live, to share with us what they feel is the real state of this nation. Any one of you can take that up, because if we don't understand what it is that we are facing, then we will not be able to respond to the challenges as they come. And if you want to speak, you mute yourself and then start.
Okay, I think I'll take that up. I hope I can be heard.
Yes, we are hearing you. Go ahead.
I think one of the basic problems that should be identified, especially in the nation Nigeria, for me, I feel is the leadership structure. The way the leaders are, the structure of the leadership, whereby given just like the recent thing that just happened due to the naira redesign, that the Supreme Court gave an order, and the president is also giving a counter order, and we also have some governors in other states also giving their own order. I think Nigeria is going to that extent whereby even the common man in the street will begin to take law into their own hands, whereby if the governor gives his order, the local government can decide to give his own order. I think we don't really have that that centralized government anymore in Nigeria, because of, I think, the leadership have centered on, when you are there, get everything, get what you want, make sure you grab all you can grab. So whatever I'm doing as a government, assuming I'm a local government chairman and you being a state governor, if you are giving rules countering to what I'm supposed to achieve, definitely I have to look for a way to give my own orders. And so I think there's no longer, we don't really have leadership structure anymore. I think everyone is just out there to get their own benefit and thus divide it, give me my share, and let me go. When the next person come, if anything he finds, he divides and also gets his share and go. So the leadership structure has gotten to that point that everyone wants to go and get his own part of the cake. Since it's a national cake, go get your own. We don't have leaders who want to sacrifice anymore. So I think the leadership structure, we need to re-strategize this leadership all entirely and see if it could help even the nation Nigeria. So I think the major problem we are facing is leadership structure.
That is interesting, Precious. That is interesting. Is a good way, a good grasp of what is going on in the country. Tulane, you are a follower of African events. I'm sure you have some thoughts about Nigeria. Do you have an idea that responds to that question, the state of the nation? You know, every year some of these presidents make a state of the nation address, and I think after people had cried and cried over the naira color change, there's an address that is floating that Nigeria's president has addressed the nation on those issues. We'll come to that later, though. But the point I'm trying to make here is you are a follower of what is going on in Nigeria, of African issues. I expect that you know about some of the problems going on in Nigeria. Do you have a comment about some of those things that relates to the state of the nation, especially according to the comments that Precious just made?
Thank you very much. Based on what my good brother have already said here, that's the problem of Nigeria currently, more especially now, because she is facing elections. They must go to poll. Myself, I'm from South Africa. However, I'm a keen follower of Nigeria, and Africa is huge. And as my brother was alluding, saying this, it just reminded me a book that I've read back on those years back. That was written by Chinua Achebe. That's the problem of Nigeria. It's the problem of leadership, and that shows me that as much as early as that book was written, even today, it is not be fixed. And the problem of leadership is not a problem that it's a Nigerian problem, South African problem, an Ethiopian problem. Many countries this year will be going into polls this year and next year. Us in South Africa will be going into polls next year. And the truth is, you can see that Africa is not that ready to go to polls because of the choice of leadership that we want. You can say as much as you have told us that we don't have powers, more especially in this gathering, to speak of to speak of ill of those candidates. But what you can see and tell when one look very close, you can see that no, we don't have a Moses now. We don't have that Moses that we really want. That will bring salvation into an African problems, into a Nigerian problems, because the truth remains that if Nigeria does not realize the potential, as PLO once said, we with the world, the Africa is as much as it will not realize the potential. So going forward, I'm happy because I've seen that the African Union have deployed observers to the Nigerian elections. So I think they sent 90 strong observers to Nigeria. So they will be observing the election to avoid things that might be occurring during the process of election, because we do not want a situation whereby after election people will start to be standing against those elections and say they've been rigged or whatsoever. And such things are possible. They're possible because we have witnessed it in African countries. Many countries have been having such problems, but those delegations, they will be led by President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, or for former, by the way. So we believe that the election in Nigeria will go smooth and there will be peace and calm. So that's the only thing I'm praying for, peace and calm in the whole situation. Because without peace, we will not do it. But let the peace not be silent, whereby Nigerians just have to be silent about it, not taking issues that are serious. But my brother have already said it, the problem of leadership must be questioned so that we will realize our full potential as a continent.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been talking with my mic muted. I had to mute it because there were some issues this way. So I was saying that we have Amos, but it seems he's gone out again. It seemed he was driving because I saw him on the steering while in the video. But then Nandis is on air right now. I don't know if he can pull up his video because we want to discuss the state of the nation. If we do not know where we are, we will not be able to understand what we need to do to get better or to get out of the problem that we have on our hands. Nande, are you able to speak?
Yes. At least I can hear now.
Okay. So what of your video? Is it good?
Uh, okay. Let me try to put on that. Let me try to put it on.
Okay. While you are doing that, we are responding to the state of the nation. We would like young people to say what they feel is the current state of this Nigerian nation, because if we don't know the state of the nation, we will not be able to find solutions to dealing with the challenges that are there. So if you can hop on that before we move to other questions, please go ahead and do. Nandi, are you there?
Yes. I'm just trying to. Let me see if I can turn on my video.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. While he's trying to do that, okay. Yeah, okay, perfect. We can see you now. So
okay.
what is your own conception? How do you see the state of the Nigerian nation now? I know the politicians have been saying their own, but I don't think their own matters as much as the one of the young people of Nigeria as we speak.
Well, I think that the state of the nation now, I would say it's neither here nor there. Okay, so let me say that probably since 1999 till now, I would say we have never really, maybe at some point we were on track. Maybe we'll try to be on track, probably because of, say, between 2003 to 2007. Maybe we were on track because of the kind of people, the kind of team that maybe Obasanjo had then. At least there, you could mention maybe one or two achievements. Probably we had some of our debts cancelled, and ordinarily one would expect that the funds that were channeled to servicing those huge debts would now go to infrastructure, education, health. But unfortunately, since 2007 till now, we've not really made any headway. So the state of the nation currently now is a situation where you would say the country is not making any step. So either backwards or forward. Okay, so it's really a very bad one. In terms of everything, all the indices you would use to measure development, there's really no one, you would say is in our favor. Okay, so recently or under the current government, we've had situations where the MBS, okay, that is the National Bureau for Statistics, which is responsible for bringing out some of these indices we use in measuring development. Even though, as one would expect, as has always been the tradition, where the head of the that agency is always politically appointed, so you would expect that some of the things that they bring out will be in favor of the government. But in the last almost 8 years, we have had situations where all that they have brought out, all the statistics that have been released by that body, have shown that we are not making any progress. Okay, so I think sometime last year or year before last, the some members of the ruling party um, accused the DG of that body of fighting the government, probably because he was serving out his tenure and he was appointed by the Jonathan administration. So, but then even the new DG that was appointed by the government, by this current government, the statistics they have released also have not been in favor of the government. So, if you put all of this together, looking at our education and health and everything, so one can conclude that we've we've not made any progress, and we are not making any one. So I think the state of the nation currently is a situation where we'll say everything is stagnant. Okay, and of course, you can't stand at a place. So if we're not making progress, it means we're moving backwards. Because as other nations are moving forward, we can't stand at a place. So so we're not making progress. Let me just put it that if in all the indices, I don't want to go to what United Nations talking about having the highest number of out of school children in the world and all that, but I want to concentrate on the statistics released by our own body. So going by even the one released by our own body shows that we've not made any progress for a very long time.
Okay, that's interesting. And Amos keep coming and getting lost in the process. But so we will move forward. The next thing I want us to talk about is 2023 elections. It's just how many, 5 days away, right? Or less, or about that. And uh, whatever we may think, whether we are believers in the electoral process of Nigeria or not, we know that this election is going to count. So the question which we will deal with, but that will be after Amos has made his comment on the state of the nation. The question we'll deal with when he finishes that, anyone else can take up after Amos finishes his own state of the nation comments, is what is at stake on 25th February 2023 and the other following elections like the governorship election, the whole gamut of Nigeria general election 2023. What is at stake? So before we start responding to that, while we have Amos, we are glad to have you, man. Can you make your own comment on the state of the nation currently?
Okay, good afternoon, my fellow participants, and then thank you so much for putting this up at all times, especially when it's when it's mostly needed. Currently, as it stands, I just came in late, and then from whatever others have said concerning the state of the nation, it's not different from the reality on ground. The state of the nation currently is the one that everybody just looked forward for it to pass somewhere in the couple of days or weeks, considering the governorship election. And we've not had this before. If you ask me, considering my own age, I've not seen this, the kind of excitement, the kind of preparedness the people of Nigeria are currently undergoing. And if you ask me, the state of the nation now, politically, is one that everybody seems to believe in wherever he or she stands. And those who are for other parties or whatever parties everyone is expecting or supporting, the hopes are high. The hopes are high, and then it behoves on next Saturday to decide what actually we've been going through currently. The hardship, the economic hardship that is going on in the country is a deciding factor. And as it stands now, if not for those who are currently active in the political aspect, the economic hardship has actually covered or superseded the political excitement as it is right now. And this economic hardship is going to tell also on the ballot. And a whole lot of cards that are being played right now are indicators of what you and I hope for a better Nigeria. It is not surprising that these are happening. I just hope that it is God's way of trying to put things into proper perspective for us. So we go through these hard times, we go through this uh, uh, political uprising, so to say, because considering the speeches and some other utterances that have been made in the last couple of days and weeks, it actually tensed. it is tense and then somewhat misleading, capable of also raising tension to bring about instability. And having said that, I feel we should look forward to what is coming next Saturday. And I'm glad to be here, and I hope to hear from others as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's take it up from there. What is at stake with effect from the 25th of February? What's at stake? Presidential elections, the rest of the elections. What is really at stake? We want to have a hang on how the youth, the young people of Nigeria understand what is really at stake. So you can take it up here if you have your thoughts organized. You can, uh, yeah, mention your name and start.
Okay. So what is really at stake for me? No, this is a general election, and this is an election that I've seen how interested individuals are, especially me at this time. And based on the current situation of the country, Nigeria, sometimes I imagine I stay in the house and say, by this year I'm 28 years. Then I try to add 8 years to my age now. That means after this election, definitely, if there is a president elected and the president has to stay for 2 tenure, then add 8 years to my age. And assuming, then I try to imagine if I'm done with school now, which I'm in my finals, if I'm done with school now and there's an 8 years added to my age and the economy is still this way, what will become of me? So that is one of the drive. That is one of the drives that I think that makes me as a person went for I had to go for my PVC because I see that let me go because if some persons will say it does not count, then I said I do ask them that the one that you did not vote, did it stop anyone from going into the government house becoming a president? So I think what is at stake for me here is my future. I have 8 years to elect a president, and 8 years added to my age now, definitely I should be older somehow. And if this economy is like this, there is no better job, there are no better things to enhance my potentials, then I can imagine electing or I didn't participate in the election and someone who is not supposed to be there is not elected and does not do all the necessary things to enhance my living as a citizen of Nigeria. Then there are so in fact the future is at stake for me personally. That's how I feel. So whatever we do as Nigerians, I understand that if this does not come right now, definitely my future is at stake. So that is why I feel that every youth, we have over 2,000 million people, and about the statistic I checked that was for 2020, 53% are youth. So I don't know, I don't know for now, but 53% as in 2022 are youth. Now you got to find out that if we do not participate, what happens to our future? Though we have so many of us who have finished school, some are older than me, and you come to find out that they complain so much, they complain bitterly about the situation that we find ourselves. And definitely, then I begin to imagine myself that I'm adding 8 years to my age now, and if the country remains like this, what becomes of me? So what is at stake naturally is my future. So I have to just take precaution and think of what I can do to improve and not that.
Thank you. Who else is taking it up? What's at stake in this election?
Okay. I think the survival of Nigeria is at stake. The way it is now, everywhere is tensed. Not really tense because of the election, tense because of the economic hardship that people are going through right now. Okay, even if we didn't have elections right now, the whole country is tensed. Now, if you look at, he just mentioned that we're about 200 million people, and about 33% of that population are youths who are unemployed. That is, we have about 33% youth unemployment. Then, if you go to the north, you have the highest number of out of school children in the world. And recently, um, over 60% of that 200 million people are poor in Nigeria. So making Nigeria now the poverty capital of the world. All right. So if you do a quick calculation now and see 60% of 200 million who live below $1 per day, that is, they are poor by United Nations standard. They are poor. So if you put all these things together, you will know that in the next few years, if you give us another 4 years the way we are now, with these statistics remaining either constant or growing, because the way we are now in terms of governance, we don't have the capacity to change those statistics to our favor. So it is either it remains the way it is or it is growing. Now, if you put all of this together, you know what kind of problems we're going to face in the next few years. Because those children in the north who are out of school, most of them are probably below 20. Okay, and if you put another 4 years, so you're going to have plenty people ready for recruitment into ISWAP and Boko Haram, and you know what that means. All right, then if you also look at the fact that where our debt right now is staggering, runs into trillions. All right, so they have borrowed, but the thing is that there's nothing really wrong with borrowing anyway. But then what we're borrowing for, those borrowings are not tied to any uh, developmental project. So meaning that we do not even have the capacity to repay those loans. And just before the end of last year, um, you know, our debt servicing exceeded our revenue. Okay, so what does that tell you? We need to borrow more, because it means that what we now earn as a country is below the amount needed to service the debts we already accumulated. So what that tells you is that as it stands now, we do not have the capacity as a country to develop. So the areas of education, the areas of health, the areas of infrastructure, okay, are just things that politicians can say all that they want to say, but those things, as it stands now, cannot happen. Okay, so they cannot happen because we need more money to even service our debt. So where would the development come? How would it come? So these are the issues at stake now. Okay, so I think that this coming election gives us the opportunity to analyze all the presidential candidates and know which of them has the best interest, has the best policies. It does not matter. As it stands now, it does not matter where the person comes from. But what matters now is what policies does the person have to take us away from where we are now. Because if we make the mistake of electing a typical politician, what we're going to have is first 4 years excuses and more borrowings. Okay, because when he takes over, the next thing he's going to tell you, as we always hear, is that the last person didn't leave any money, so he has to borrow. Okay, so he has to borrow. But where we stand presently now is a situation where our revenue, our total revenue, is not even enough to service our current debt. So imagine if we elect somebody who does not have anything to offer, and the person comes on board, borrows more, of course, for nothing. So what I tell people is that it's either we'll get it right now, or then we should forget about Nigeria. Okay. If you go through, if you go to our public schools, if you go to our public schools, if you go, most of the states are not able to run primary and secondary education anymore. All right. If you go to my state, Abia, all the public schools, in fact, there are more public secondary schools without any student than there are with students. So there are some secondary schools in Abia right now that the teachers just hold meeting. Okay, these three people, okay, people should attend this week. Next week, this other three will attend because no student is there. All the infrastructures, everything gone. Okay, so if we have a situation where the government cannot even manage primary and secondary, so imagine what the universities look like. So if you put all of this together, you see that there is more to this 2023 election than we've always had. We've always had elections, but we are now at a very serious situation where this is the election now that I think could either put us back on the right track or destroy us entirely. Okay, so I understand that maybe as a multicultural country, so probably there is need to balance leadership in terms of where those who lead come from. Okay, so people feel okay, fine, because there are many ethnic groups, there is need for representation and all that. But I think right now there has to be more to that than just being politically correct. Okay, so it has to be, we have to elect somebody who has first the integrity and the knowledge to govern. Okay, the integrity and the knowledge to govern. Integrity in the sense that we must have people who tell us the truth, how it is. Because if, for example, the issues we are having with the naira scarcity that has closed a lot of businesses and made a lot of families suffer right now, is because there's no honesty in the whole thing. Okay, if they were going to run a cashless policy, then let us know it is a cashless policy you are going to run. Then there are a lot of things that should go into that before you start implementing the policies. You would expect that you work with the banks to enhance their, their online capabilities and all that. But you have a situation where the cash is not there, then even the transfers cannot work. Okay, so there's no integrity in the whole implementation of that policy. So we must have somebody who would tell Nigerians, look at where we are, look at how it is. And if you tell Nigerians the truth, Nigerians are enduring people, they will be able to endure. So I think that is the thing. So we must make the right choice now or we are gone. So
Okay.
there's good knowledge of statecraft must be there, then integrity.
Okay, thank you. Great points there. Someone else, because we're going to come around to some of these things again at some point. So when you make a point in each particular one, you tell us straight away what we are dealing with there. And then when we go around again, you can add more and more. Thank you very much, Nandi, for that. Yes. What is at stake? I think Amos is your turn. Unmute yourself and then.
Okay. So much has been said, and without dwelling on the statistics and all that has been said, I want to clearly say that everything, everything that you and I know is at stake. Everything that concerns the human existence within the geography of Nigeria is at stake. Um, away from being casual with our current predicament, let me put it that way. This coming election has what it takes to make or mar Nigeria. This election, however, of course, I was discussing with someone recently, and we all concluded that the tension building up to this election is not as much as that of 2015. That is true because at this point, we seems to be more aware of what are in stake, what and what are there on the table for us. As at 2015, it was a do or die affair. This has to do with the survival of not just Nigeria, but the survival of the least man on the streets. And so going into this election is like we having at the back of our minds what Chinua Achebe said in his book, The Trouble with Nigeria, that there's nothing wrong with Nigeria, not even the air, the geography, or what have you, that the problem of Nigeria is squarely the problem of leadership. And that is what is at the back of our minds going into this election. We believe that without the right leader in place, we cannot make any headway. It is sad that, of course, like my friend recently said about 8 years added to his age, what becomes of it? Sadly, that 8 years of our years has just been wasted, and we are about to reactivate another 4 years. And whatever we reactivate these 4 years could even make the extension to 8 years, considering our political activities. Okay, so for me, next Saturday, this coming Saturday, is the definition of the anger, the frustration, the bad governance, and everything that is wrong about Nigeria. It is away from being ethnically or tribalistic about it. No, it is far away from that. I've participated in elections in Nigeria for like 3 times now, but I've never had it this much. So building up to this election, everything is at stake and everything is in the balance for us to go away with. We cannot we cannot afford to miss it. Everybody on the street knows that. Everybody in government, everybody in the private sector, all aspects, even the terrorists that are causing us problems today are aware of what 2023 election is going to become of them. So everything is at stake. It's a it's a do or die affair now, economically, politically, you know, mentally. Many of us are approaching this election not because we we don't have alternatives, but it is because we are tired of all of those alternatives. And then we cannot help ourselves anymore. Okay, so going into this election, I must confess that there is more to it than even policies or whatever manifesto that is on ground. This is about character, it's about the person in question. Okay, so for me, I think as we build up to this election, we should look at the survival of Nigeria. We should look at the survival of Nigeria. And when we talk about the survival of Nigeria, I come in first, you come in first, because without us existing, there will be no Nigeria. So our
Okay.
coming election is about the survival of the entity called Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you very much for all those comments on that. And I'm sure at some point today we might have need to revisit other levels of your thoughts on what is at stake in February. specifically beginning from February 25th, 2023, which is the day of the presidential and national assembly elections in Nigeria. Okay. I think from there we can see a lot of the worst fears that Nigerian youth have. But I think we have not yet found adequate information on the hopes that are raised, all the hopes that are raised by this February 25th presidential election. Can you take time turn by turn and discuss the hopes, all of the hopes you can think about that are raised by the mere fact that this election is going to hold on the 25th of February? So what are the hopes? Anyone can go first.
Well, for me, I feel the hopes. Why I feel that this election is exceptional, I could see the enthusiasm, the zeal on individuals, especially for this election. This election is different because for so long now, for other elections which I have witnessed, I have not seen zeal of especially the Nigerian youth. So for me, I feel I'm hopeful because uh, people are really turned out for such election. And also the electoral board, which is the INEC, said that there are so many registration that happened this year than previous elections. That means there are so many people who have come back to obtain their PVCs, which I know that at least most of them must be youths. And unfortunately, there are so many persons who could not get their PVCs, maybe due to lack of registration or inability for them to get their PVCs. But I know that for the few who have gotten their PVCs, and majority of them are youth, and the right mindset of individuals having for this election now is also what gives me hope. But I know that everyone is present in the country. Everyone has seen the situation in the country. And sometimes when I overhear some persons say that this election is not the time that they will give me money, then I will vote, that I have to vote my conscience. I sometimes I am happy about that, hearing that this is the first time that Nigerians have realized that actually their vote can count. And for them to have come out in mass to obtain their PVCs, that means they have hope. And for every Nigerian that came out and registered and today have their PVC, have hope. It's not like that in previous election. Previous election will be like whatever they like, let them do. After all, is who they want to put, they will put. But this time we have seen that we can actually make a difference. And of course, we have our PVCs. So definitely we will definitely come out and do our voting and also see them count the election. Whatever the outcome might be, we don't know. But what is so important is that I want to participate and see if we can make a change. So that is the hope.
In place, thank you. And more comments on what hopes are raised by 2023 elections in Nigeria? Unmute yourself and start.
Let me see. This one.
Yeah, you're muted.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Precious, for that thoughtful insight. Um, what are the hopes? And the moment you ask that question, I just got a stupor of thought within, and I asked myself, what then is on the table that is considered as hope for me? You know, for a very long time, we've been so comfortable with everything that has to do with politics. We are so comfortable, we don't take it that serious. But the hope that I'm having now, if you ask me, it is It is me seeing a new Nigeria, a Nigeria that could only exist on paper is what I'm about to see physically in action. The hope I'm having, and a lot of Nigerians have building up to this election, is that for the first time, collectively, we are accepting that Nigeria is going to work. And that whoever is going to make it work is someone that we know can and must be accountable. The hope is we now have someone in view, hopefully, yes, that if given the chance, you and I can have access to what governance is actually all about. The hope is everyone is engaged in discussing what and what we should even get as a people from the government. For the first time in campaigns, you don't see rice flying around. You don't see foodstuffs, pepper, maggi, salt flying around. That is the hope of a new Nigeria. Why? Because someone is up there trying to be the game changer. And not just being the game changer because he or she wants power, but because the right thing ought to be done. Nigerians are awakened. That is the biggest hope that we have building up to this election. That Nigerians are awake, we are no longer asleep, we are no longer being tossed to and fro by those who would think without them, Nigeria cannot survive. And so, as we look to the hopes coming in, I envisage a new positive Nigeria in the sense that without my participation, I cannot have the moral standing to be part of that new Nigeria. And that is going to be the aftermath of all that next Saturday is going to bring.
Okay, that's interesting. I think it is good to know that most of you chose consciousness as the most important thing, because there's nobody who can succeed beyond their consciousness. Okay, Nandi, do you have comments on hopes that are raised by this election on Saturday,
Yes,
25th?
yes. Okay, I wanted to say that the hope uh, lies in the fact that we'll now have a new electoral act. Okay, I think which has given INEC the freedom to bring in technology into the process. Okay, so um, uh, unlike before, now we'll have beavers. We hear the accreditation will be done using that technology. Okay, and that accreditation will be transmitted directly to the INEC server. Okay, so meaning that if you have four people, maybe in a polling unit, you have only four people who are accredited. So whatever we do, the result must tally with the number of accredited voters. Okay, so and we hear that the result of the accreditation will be transmitted directly to the INEC server. So we hope that they use the beavers. Okay, so if that beavers is used, we know it will curtail a lot of uh, rigging and other irregularities that Nigerian past elections were associated with. So I think the introduction of the new electoral act, which has given INEC that freedom, has also increased our hope. Okay, so we hope that it is used, and if it is, then fine. We could have a credible election. We could have a credible election. So that is the hope I have now, because um, ordinarily in Nigeria, it is not enough to say for government to make promises, or even agencies of government to make promises, but for those promises to be fulfilled. So if they are going to use what they have told us they are going to use, okay, so then we should expect that at least this election will reflect the wishes and aspirations of the people.
Okay, great. That is very uh, concise and incisive. Uh, the the hopes that are raised is critical, because when we are hopeless, it leads to a lot of things that are not good, both for those who are involved and the general populace. But if there's hope, there's life, and then that will help see things. The other thing we follow up that I have with this is, are we sure that the INEC has deployed the beavers, the new technology? Did they deploy it, or are they hoping to deploy it as yet?
Hmm. Now, I think they have. Most places. I think this week there were mock. Should I say mock exams? Uh, Televised. Okay, where they tested it, even in River State here. So, so I think they they test run it, and was it I think a Shun and Ekiti election.
Hmm.
All right. So so and right now I think this past week they also did a mock test on it. So but then until you get to the election. Okay, so because all the place, unlike the card reader before, where we hear the card reader failed and all that. So, but all of the places they surround this one, I think there were no issues. Okay, but the question that a lot of people are asking is, in most places, remote areas where internet services are very poor, how do they intend to manage those areas? Okay, I think this is one question that I've not really read or heard of any good answer. Okay, how do they intend to manage those remote areas where you do not have enough network coverage? How do they intend to? How is the beavers going to work there? Most places in the north, with all due respect to them, where some of these huge figures come from during elections, we understand too that they have network issues. Either they have been destroyed by the terrorists. Okay, so how do they intend to manage? Because the new electoral act now has outlawed incident forms. So it means that it is either the accreditation is done through the beavers, or you didn't vote at all. You will not be accredited at all. So these areas now where there is no network coverage, I have not heard or read what INEC is planning to do about those areas. Okay, so
Okay.
because those are the those areas are going to be the major challenge to the beavers.
Okay. Well, I think that kind of challenge is part of the developmental issues and problems that all of us are fighting for in the process of trying to find out which way forward. Hopefully, they will maximize it to the extent useful, to the extent reasonable enough to give credibility to the elections. Okay, so let's move forward to some other area of interest. Now, and we might think this is just how can this be important, but this to me is very important. So, what could happen if the hopes and aspirations of the majority of Nigerians, especially the youth, are actualized at these elections? What do you think will happen? What things do we look forward to following an election that actualized the mind, the aspirations and hopes of the young people of this country. Your thoughts?
Well, for me, it will be a very difficult one because when you have
Hmm.
a hope, when you have your hope dashed out, and
Okay. Let me just react quickly to this.
Okay, let's get it here. Let me rephrase that question, and then Precious were coming on it. Let's see if but we need to rephrase the question. The question is, if we actualize, if the hopes of Nigerian youth is actualized on that election, the election takes place, everything goes well, and what the young people of Nigeria expecting happened. Let's say the candidate of their choice wins the election, even if it is just the presidential election or many of the other elections. What do you think? What results do you think will follow that in Nigeria? So, Precious, do you have that clear?
yes, yes.
Okay. Do you want to continue to respond, or
Okay. Uh, I feel if everything gone well and the election is being held, and of course the youth candidates are emerged as the president, I think the youth will be very happy. They will be optimistic. They will look forward for a better Nigeria. Because definitely they have hope in a man which they will be electing as a president. And there are some expectations, of course, that they expect this particular candidate to meet. If this particular candidate is not able to meet up, of course, there will be patience. That was another thing that we need to know. That if the uh, the choice candidate is being elected, the youth will be patient because they know that not every youth will be patient, but I know that some of the youth will be patient because for those of them that will be patient will know that, of course, just as Nnamdi has said, the previous government is already leaving debt for for the present government to come and face. So the government that is coming in is coming to acquire debt, but we have hope that Nigeria will be a better place. So I feel that the youth will be happy that their choice candidate is being elected, and of course, it will reduce the tension of insecurity in the state too.
okay? That is good. Thank you very much. Amos, you wanted to make a comment on that? Amos, you wanted to make a comment on that? Oh, it seems there's an issue with Amos. Nandi, are you up?
Okay, yes. Well, I think that for anyone to support a particular candidate, there must be certain things he feels the person will be able to achieve. I, um, I hope that the right candidate will win. Okay, but I also hope that a repeat of 2015 would not happen. Towards the build up of 2015 elections, we had this escalated uh, terrorist war in the northeast, and a lot of people felt that the administration at the time was not doing anything, was not doing well in terms of security. So, and a lot of support that the current president got then was because of his military background. People felt he was going to, as soon as
Yes.
he comes in.
Okay. Thank you very much. It creates in my mind that
Amos, you are muted. You are muted. Nandi was still up.
Okay, so
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think that, yeah, I think that that was why a lot of people supported him, because they felt with his military background he'll be able to handle the security issues. But that uh, almost 8 years down the line, that hasn't happened. So a lot of other promises he made, all right, fighting corruption and all that, a lot of those things he hasn't done. So there's a lot of disappointments. So I hope that if the candidate that a lot of people think is the best wins, I hope that he understands the weight of the hope or and aspirations of people that he is carrying. Okay. So and I hope that he hits the ground running, because if he fails, if he fails, then there's nothing people can say again. Assuming a majority of the youth of Nigeria are supporting one candidate right now. So assuming that candidate wins and fails, of course, the old guys would say, You guys still have a lot to learn. We told you." So they have better reasons to always want to come back. So I just hope that it is not political talk, that all that they have said that have made millions of people to be part of their movement, they actually mean it, and as soon as they win, they start implementing them. If not, I think people will lose interest, not just about the electoral process, people will lose interest in the country. And when there's that kind of apathy, then the country is gone.
Okay. Thank you very much. Amos, do you have you are you is your system okay to come up? Amos, you're up. It seems your internet is having issues. Um, One of the things that you can do to correct that will be to exit, get out, and then come back in. It might correct the issue. Okay, so let's move to another question that I think might make you wonder why. And this to me is at the center of the reason why we are here today. What could happen if the hopes of the young people of Nigeria are dashed on 25th February? If maybe the person they hope for wasn't elected, what could happen? Who wants to take that up?
Well, for me, what could happen? I think I see violence in that, because the youth have so much energy to give, and if the hope of the youth are being dashed out, and it is shown to the youth that what they worked for is ruined by some kind of cover. I think it will create a lot of violence. Now, violence in the sense that there will be a lot of crises that will happen, especially in the local level, in the state level. People will begin to cause problems, and most of these problems, some ignorant people, just like protests. So when some ignorant people now enters the protest, they begin to cause riot. Then that is where it will be wrong. For me, I feel if the youth hope is being dashed out and they notice that it is an electoral error why their hope is dashed out, I think there will be violence, and that is what I'm seeing, and that is what I am sensing.
Okay, thank you. Uh, any more comment on that?
Yeah, I think first of all, the youth need to understand that it is an election. it is an election and is a political process. So you can have a good man, but as good as the man is, winning election, especially in this part of the world, is totally a different thing. Okay. Um, the thing is that if well, I what I expect is that there has to be a lot of. I just hope that we'll have enough. Let me say political civility, in the sense that if I support a candidate and the candidate doesn't win, I will be civil enough to understand that majority of the people have spoken, even though I feel this is the right person. So, do I have the civility to accept the outcome of the election and say, even though I feel I am convinced this is the right candidate, but the majority of people feel otherwise? Okay, so again, that is one of the ways that I feel that we could enhance democracy in Nigeria if we learn to be politically civil. Okay, right now, I know that a lot of people a lot of people are hoping that a particular candidate wins because we believe that he is better, he has the competence, he has the character. Okay, but there are also a lot of people who feel otherwise. So if those other people win, those of us who support a particular candidate, as disappointed as we would be, it is also right for us to accept that even though a better candidate has lost, but somebody has won. So, and we'll move on from there. Because that civility also entrenches democratic values, which are also some of the things we need if we must develop. All right. So, the issue of probably protests or riots could come if if people sense that the process leading to the emergence of the winner was not okay. All right. So if the process was not okay, like I've talked about beavers, which is now supported by law, which will have been promised would be used. Okay. So if we now see that certain places it was not used and results from those places are accepted, okay, it means the winner may have emerged through a process that was not proper, and that could lead to other things. So I hope that two things: one, that the youth who, whether we like it or not, this election means more to them, would also be politically civil and vote, participate in the process. But should the election be conducted following the laws, and the process is seen to be credible, and that candidate of their choice didn't win and another candidate wins, so I also expect that, having seen that the process was credible, that they would also accept the results and hope that whoever wins would do well and give him all the support until there is a reason not to support. But going to protest or destroy things simply because your candidate didn't win does not show that you even believe in the process in the first place. So that's my take on that.
Okay, I think that is very important to bring up the angle that you brought now. Um, yes, the youth have a lot of energy. Yes, they have been suffering. Yes, there's tension in the atmosphere. If the election hosts and the candidate youth have in mind, I want to rephrase this for purposes of emphasis, the candidate they have in mind did not win, but they can see that the process is credible, they should apply political civility. That's your point. I think that's what you mentioned, right?
Yes.
Okay, that is cool. All right, Amos, are you in a good position to make comments?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes. Oh, did you mute yourself back? Okay, unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've
go
done
ahead.
that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to begin from the earlier question before my network got bad. Uh, if our hopes and if hopes are now realized, if we realize our hope, getting the man who we as young people want to be in that position, what would be like our reaction or what have you? I think that was something like that you asked that question earlier on before now.
Yes.
And I want us
Yes.
to feel like, imagine your businesses are in safe hands. Just imagine that your own hard earned money in business, and that business is in a very good hand away from you. I think you can go to sleep anywhere, you can be on vacation anywhere with the utmost assurance that all is well with your business. And that feeling alone means everything to you and to whoever that person might be, considering his business are in good hands. Those are the kind of feelings that we want. We don't even want much things as Nigerians. If you ask me, we don't really want much big things. Get the good roads working, give us electricity, give us good health care, give those basic things, and you can go ahead and make whatever corruption you want to do. Okay, so our hopes is that if we realize that man on the seat in which all of us hope and aspire for, I think we'll be at peace. There's something called autocorrect mode. Nigerians will place on autocorrect mode. Our psyche, our mental state of mind, health, everything will change. I was in Abuja as at 2015 when Buhari came into office. People, because of the impression they have about him before now, and the kind of picture he was painted to be, there was immediate like correctness going on in the state house. Those who are fond of coming to work late, those who don't come to work as they should, everything was in order because they felt this man is a no nonsense person before things begin to go bad. Okay, so if we have someone in place which is the popular demands of the people, automatically things will begin to fall into place. We will contribute to the government. Everybody will do what the government expect he or she to do. We'll be happy to see that however long it's going to take the government, so long as those policies and whatever are in the favor of Nigerians, we'll be patient for it to work. Okay, but coming to your next question, this one now thing. Now, there's something legitimacy in every government. For a government to thrive, that government must enjoy absolute legitimacy. Once that support is not there, there is little or nothing that government can achieve it or that stage after. Whoever then that government should expect that Nigerians will be demoralized. Will be demoralized and will not take the government serious because it is not our wish. It's not who we want. Okay, and then there will be so much amount of anarchy just as we are having today. You can imagine a government challenging itself. That is the point we are in now. Federal government said no use of currency of so and so amount, but some governors are saying that it must be enforced within their own boundaries, government within government. This is a tip of an iceberg of what we are going to expect happening in Nigeria when the election goes opposite direction. Okay, so for me, I think away from that, we should expect so much security beef ups building up to the announcement of that election first place. Because the ordinary man who is shouting a particular movement, his life depends on that movement. His
Okay,
family or
thank,
whatever business he or she has is dependent on that business. And what happens when that hope is being dashed? I
okay. Thank you very
promise you,
much.
so many people will commit suicide after this election
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's hope things do not get to
because of
that
these
point. Let's
hopes.
hope it doesn't get to that point. Yes. I want to quickly ask these two questions. Let's deal with these two questions as concisely as we can. Um, First, is there
Can you hear me?
any of the potential candidates in this election that you think can turn things around for Nigeria? And why do you think so? Can you do that quickly? I mean, go straight to the point and mention a few things, maybe in a minute or two. Is there any of the presidential candidates in this election that you think can turn things around for Nigeria? And why do you think so?
Yeah, for me, I think P2B can turn things around, and I think so because of his antecedents. All right, he governed Anambra, and while as a governor of Anambra, the United Nations awarded Anambra as the number one in implementation of MDGs. Then, all right, even the federal government recognized Anambra as having the best internal roads. Okay, and again, his financial prudence. Okay, so in Anambra when he took over, eh, on WAEC standing they were 26th, and he said this is not acceptable. And the second year they became number one, and they were number one till he left office. Okay, so based on those things and without fanfare, nobody heard of all this. Not these ones that will build a poor road and the whole world will come to commission. So he did all of this. Nobody heard of it. So I think those his antecedents, based on his antecedents. So I think for me, he is the best candidate.
Okay, thank you very much, Precious.
Well, for me, looking at all the presidential candidates, I think the man who have reached out to people with his own style is P2B. I've seen, I've heard him talk one or few times. Sometimes I go through the commentaries, and I think he has a kind of leadership that Nigeria need at this time. From what he's saying, his styles of leadership he wants to bring in. I think that is what the Nigerian youth are buying into. You want that kind of leader that is accessible. Those kind of leaders that you are saying you want to change the formula. We have one pattern of formula in political parties, that if it's not this person, it's like a turn by turn thing. No, me, I had the privilege of participating in school election, even as I'm serving as the director of social in my school in the department. So I see how even election in our grassroots is being done. You say, you are going to contest for SCG election next year. Let's allow this man to rule. It is done man no man. By the time you now see a lot of boycotting, a lot of blasphemy, we have a lot of you have to damage someone's image to make sure that the person does not get public attention, and I say a lot of things. So I feel that P2B has come out as a man that has real interest. And of course, when you see someone that has real interest, you don't need to be told. You definitely know. So I think P2B should is a man that, for me, is a man that has real interest for Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much. The before I ask the central question of this interview, which is where we will close it. Um, Here is a statement that is credited to some of the candidates in their campaigns, and I took time to view the videos where they say these things. P2B said, this election this year should be about competence, character, and commitment, and visible examples of performance. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it is my turn. Atiku Abubakar, what the Northerners need is a candidate from the North, not Igbo, not Yoruba. So, what dangers do you foresee in these kinds, and what good and what bad is in these kinds of comments from the presidential candidate, the front runner presidential candidate, the three of them?
Okay, for me, I think it tells you all about the candidates. Okay, it tells you all about the candidates, their vision for the country. Okay, so for P2B, um, maybe you also needed to see where he said he was not desperate to be president, but that he is desperate to see Nigeria work. So I think he is. That tells you everything about him. So his ambition is not about ethnicity. It is not about wanting to be over ambitious, wanting to be president at all costs. But I think his ambition is based on the fact that he wants things to work. If he doesn't become the president, he has nothing to lose. Okay, he has nothing to lose. He's a man who has seen success, who has been successful at very early time in his lifetime. So I think his ambition is about Nigeria. He is focused, and I think he means what he says. But the other one for Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I do not think he understands where we are as a country, where we are right now. One, his health. If you watch his campaigns, you would see somebody who is not coherent enough, probably because of illness or something like that. And you understand that the problem of Nigeria is not easy to solve. And if you have somebody who is not uh, coherent, he was in Port Harcourt a few days ago, and they announced national anthem, and he raised his hand up. That is to tell you, if it is in street language, they will say he skips. So and considering where we are now, the kind of problems we have, you do not want to have somebody who is not able to put himself together, because the weight of the problem is going to carry come May 29th. It's not an easy one. So I do not see him as somebody who has the capability uh, right now to bear the problems of Nigeria. And the angle he's coming from is the angle that we're trying to move away from. Okay, it is my turn. Okay, so that is the angle that everybody wants Nigeria to move away from. Then for Atiku, if that statement already shows you what kind of a man he is. All right, and considering where we are now, based on what the current president has done, so Nigeria is very divided, very divided. So we need somebody who could unify Nigeria, and without that unity, we cannot make progress. So if now somebody now comes to tell you it has to be a northerner, not Igbo, not Yoruba. That tells you even the unity that we need first before we can begin to attract the necessary investment that can help us out of this situation. We cannot, because if it's coming from that angle, that already tells you the kind of policies, the kind of things he's going to do.
Okay, that is on point there. Precious, do you want to take it up?
Okay. I think for the man that talks about competency, we need character. You want to understand that for me, we need a leader that has those leadership attributes. And this is the first time that Nigerians, especially me as a Nigerian, is beginning to feel that I actually gives president a job. I think one of the striking things why I was listening to the presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, said that give me your job. That means presidency is a job that Nigerian gives to a particular man to handle. So the other candidate is telling us that it is his turn. Definitely, maybe this is his father's company, and definitely is an inheritance thing. For me, for the presidential candidate for PDP, saying that since he's from the North should vote for him. So then, is the only part of the North that are Nigerians? So I think if you look at these three candidates, for me, Peter Obi has come to speak the mind of people, and he is more of the unifier. Because whatever he does, he carries every part, every region of this country along. There is no in his campaign, he has not come any day and say that vote for me because it is my turn. Because if they are even talking about turn, definitely the party in which he came from have never become president in this country.
I
So
get
for
it.
his,
Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
So
Go ahead. Finish.
yeah. So he's not looking on those, but he has come because of he has seen that Nigeria needs to be taken from where they are to a different point. Because of where we are now, we are suffering. Even the rich and the poor is suffering. There will be a time that when the frustration is much, that people will no longer be free. Insecurity is everywhere. Talk more of the barracks. If banditries are even they are even able to go enter the barrack now. So there will be a time that even in the government house, they'll go there and kidnap our governor and go. If it's being allowed, if these things are allowed this way, if we don't get someone who is talking of, we are talking of competency and character, someone that will help us solve these solutions, solve this problem before it kills us all. So for me, I think P2B has come out and he has made a very nice point. For me, I feel that he has a real interest for us. So I think P2B should go.
Our final question for this meeting today is: if the elections are, we see that it is rigged or annulled, what will and can Nigerian youth do in that kind of circumstance? That is the theme of the meeting itself, the town hall meeting. What will and can Nigerian youth do if the presidential election is rigged or annulled? Of course, we have a history of a military or any group of people coming to annul elections in Nigeria. And that is also the first time that it appeared that Nigerians went to the polls. Either though they have all elections are manipulated, that is the time that it appeared that Nigerians went to the poll in 1993, if I remember, the June 12 elections. Then the military just simply annulled it. So if that happens in this election that will take place on the 25th of February, or if there's evidence that the process, as Nandi mentioned earlier, has not been followed, what will and what can the Nigerian youth do? That looks like a live snake, right?
Yes, yes. Well, I I hope that I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen because right now there's a lot of anger in the land. Okay, so the I hope it doesn't happen, but if it happens, I hope the youth too would follow due process. Okay, and support and encourage the candidate who has been or the candidates who were rigged out. Okay, but you said annulled. Annulled is different from rigging.
Yes, it's different from rigging. They can rig the
Yes.
election and announce a result. The person who didn't win
Mm,
will be announced. That's rigging. And
mm,
all is somebody wins the election and the military decides that the results will not be used to govern Nigeria. That is annulment. It happened to MK Abiola in 1993, I believe. Precious, it seems Nandi's internet is having issues. Can you take it up?
Well, just as I said, I hope it does not happen. But if that happens, I think the Nigerian youth should be able to be civilized enough to follow due process. And of course, we have a working judiciary in the system. And if it happens to be rigged, I think we just need to be civilized because in the course of in the course of having violence, it might really harm us all because the political system we have in Nigeria, since they all have the military, uh, though I hope it does not happen because I can't just imagine what will happen. I just hope it does not happen.
The question is, what if it happens? Okay, you cannot imagine what will happen if it happens.
I cannot just imagine.
Okay, and you can keep that way because sometimes when you speak some of these words, they come through the arms of the law, or even the criminals using the arms of the law can look for those who said something before it
Yeah,
happened, even
yeah.
if what they were saying is a prophecy or warning. So it is okay to, be very careful about those, especially in a country like Nigeria.
Yeah.
But it is uh, gratifying to have you, young people of Nigeria, come up today and speak on this matter. And we also felt good to have uh, Tulane from South Africa, who is a young man who watches the whole of Africa, also appear on the program. We will call it a day now, and we'll try to um, come up again on Monday, maybe about this time or some other time, to um, see what other thoughts, and then maybe other young people who will be able to join us. And again on Tuesday before the elections hold, as we arranged previously in the group. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you for participating in this program. Your thoughts have been very useful. And listeners, we're looking forward to you viewing this, making comments, asking questions, and those your questions and comments can help us decide to come back again on stream and do more. Precious, thank you very much for being at the program.
Thank you.
All right. Do have a great Sunday.